Birds of Prey issue 3, Chuck Dixon writing with Greg Land on the art, as we've had the last couple issues. This is the conclusion to this first three-part story. Sorry, 3-arc story. But 3-part story.
I mean, we might get one later.
We might indeed. So I quite enjoyed this issue. I think I've liked this first arc. Now that we've had all 3 parts of it, I kind of like how distinct each issue's felt in it. Where the first one was about to sort of try to sneak in and find out what's happening, then you introduce Bard at the end of the issue, and then issue 2 is them trying to escape and all this stuff. And then this issue, I really like the conceit of, in the camp, you've got Canary and Bard trying to escape, and the idea that he's blind, so she's kind of leading the blind man through the jungle and the dodging alligators and all the rest of it. But I love the aspect, and it's kind of what makes Birds of Prey work so well, even this early on, is the idea of having the person back, at the computer in the chair who's trying to help, but she can't find her. I loved her and Tim, Babs and Tim sitting with the maps, trying to figure out, okay, where could they be? Like, what, there's this much jungle in real Asia, the made up country.
Yes.
And we're trying to find out where every time I felt the pacing was really good because of that, the way it was bouncing back and forth between them. It's kind of the same thing that makes something like Die Hard or even Under Siege work really well, is where you cut to the people who are on the outside of the situation trying to help from the other side.
It just gives it this breather, so that when you cut back to the action, in this case Canary, it feels fresh again, even though it's just the very next part of that scene. Yeah,
and it does a smart little thing here as well, because remember, we teased Blockbuster at the end of the last one shot before we started the series, and this actually kind of teases more of that stuff in this issue. And it's a really fun little jokey way as well, where they're like, oh, we have to like pay the ransom that's been demanded for Canary, and it's like, oh, he wants $2 million or whatever it is, and Tim's like, wait, you have that money? And she says, oh, I know someone who does though. And I actually thought, oh, she's going to take it from Bruce because Bruce can afford it. And then
I did too, but no, just take it from a criminal, much easier.
Yeah, she's basically just stolen it from Blockbuster, who's like throwing computers around, and his techie's like, well, I tried to stop this Oracle, but my tech just couldn't keep up. My hardware just couldn't do it. I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. She does get a message from her pen pal, but she doesn't answer it because she's too busy trying to help Dinah.
I'm sure that's coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to more of that, but at least so far that's where we are with it. And we do the whole thing with Hellhound where he wants to fight Canary. He's sick of chasing people who can't fight back, so he wants the showdown. Do you know, this really would make a good action movie, just on the premise alone of what it is. Like, the idea that he finds her after they've already gotten away from everyone else, and it's like, no, this is the end of the line. We're going to have her one-on-one fight now.
Yeah, and the way he talks about it with Pajamas being like, no, I'm going to let her go. I'm going to give her a head start. I think she has a chance. He wants that thrill of the hunt and the chase. It's not just, for him, this isn't just a job about stopping people running away. No, he wants the fun, the challenge.
Yeah, and again, it's very much like Under Siege 2. You've got the main bad guy, but then you've got the enforcer underneath who wants to fight. He wants to go one-on-one to prove himself with the main hero kind of thing. So you've got those elements. You've got those 90s action movie elements kind of creeping in there. I think it works really well in the context of the story. Now, admittedly, we do have to talk about the fact that Canary and Bard are both very scantily clad. Their clothes are all ripped.
It gets worse as it goes on.
Yeah, they really wanted her, the whole almost Raquel Welch kind of thing going with Canary, where she's...
Yeah, they repeatedly make a point of telling us how good looking she is. Like, she's looking like models or actresses, whoever they name drop, I can't remember.
They say Sharon Stone at one point, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think they did someone else as well, I'm sure. But I remember a couple of times where I'm like, okay, I get it. And Land leans into that a lot.
I mean, it's a bit cheesecakey, and I don't necessarily mind that if that's the tone of the book's going to be. The funny thing is, though, is I don't necessarily know if the rest of the book otherwise actually feels like it belongs with that tone. It's just kind of isolated on its own that it likes to do this as well because it's a comic book and it's for teenage boys. So here's... Yeah,
but I mean, the problem is it is very in keeping with the aesthetic of those, 80s, 90s action movies.
True. That's true, because she's essentially got this ripped shirt that she's got tied around her chest, that kind of sort of showing off her abdomen, which I get it. She's in like a really hot climate, like, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's fine. It's the way it gets ripped as it goes on, and it just there becomes more and more cleavage as the issue wears through.
Yes, I can only imagine all this. Like, she's taking on like an entire army of men at some point, and she's doing all this kicking and punching and ducking and diving, and like I can't imagine that's very convenient without a bra. That's basically my thought.
Maybe that's why she's got the shirt tied up as high and tight as she does. It's like this is the best chance she's got for any sort of containment.
I guess.
I don't know if there's any physics or logic to support that, but it's the best I've got.
So it is what it is. It's very cheesecakey, and you kind of have to accept it and just go with it. But we'll point it out
on little bits in the art. Did someone slip the colorist a note about Bard's hair? Because at the end of last issue, when it revealed he was blind, his hair looked significantly darker, and we said he looked, kind of like, Matt Murdock.
That's right. Yeah, he looked more ginger.
And then here he is extremely blonde, like extremely, like nearly canary levels of blonde for a lot of the book.
Yeah, there's some panels where he's actually more blonde looking.
Yeah, it's a little inconsistent, but it's definitely always lighter than it was last time. I wonder if someone saw that and went, yeah, okay, that looked a little Daredevil. Colorist, could you lighten that up a bit while he's blind, at least? Yeah,
but of course they're getting to like almost freedom, and Hellhound catches up and wants to fight her. So we get them fighting. It's a very good fight, to be honest. They've got the size, and she ends up getting one of them and stabbing him in the foot. And so the cavalry's came in because Babs called in the armed forces and whatnot. So Jackie Pajamas did get away, but they're they've saved all the hostages, and it kind of ends on this sort of downbeat note of like, Dinah's like, hey, why'd you let that one get away? He seems all right. And she's like, yeah, I mean, he saved your life, but I just wish he'd saved mine as well. And it ends in this kind of somber note of like an old photograph of them on her computer. Yeah, no, it was really. I think this issue was really fast paced. Felt really action packed. I never really felt it slow down or get in the way of itself. And the one time it did like sort of take a break to tease something else, it was a really funny joke that was led into by what we're doing.
Yeah, it's hard to complain. It's a really solid issue.
Yeah,
I think it's held back by some of the cheesecakey art, but again, and you want to forgive it because it's leaning into the trappings of the genre rather than just being cheesecakey comic-y. But yeah, a couple of little things there. But I mean, it's a solid first arc, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I think I like the arc as a whole even more. I said this last issue about revealing like the context of that opening scene, but I think the more this arc went, I think each part elevated the arc as a whole. Even though there's some art issues with the cheesecake and the sleaziness of some of the visuals, I think, but other than that,
it's an arc that I think will benefit on a reread. If that makes sense. Yeah, how like there are TV shows where you watch them from the start and the first few episodes are like, it's fine. But if you go back after you've watched the whole TV show and you care about the characters, you enjoy it a lot more. And you know where it's going. I feel like the same with this art where I know where it's going. I know some of those things that, like in that first issue, that didn't have context at the time and felt weird. Now I know where it's going and I understand. I might enjoy more the second time around.
And I have to really compliment the use of Jason Bard here and how because in the first issue he offered this really funny twist at the end. In the second issue, we got a lot of drama out of him. Like, is he really working for the bad guys? Oh no, thankfully he is he's a good guy and he's there to save people and he's going to help Dinah. And there was a lot of good sort of like action and drama taken from that in issue 2. And then issue 3, he becomes this really interesting like extra sort of burden for Dinah, so that it's not too easy for her, where she has to like guide a blind man as she's doing this. It has this extra caveat that makes the action just a little bit more interesting. So I think he was using a really good mechanical device throughout, which
it was pretty solid. I know it says next time Return of the Ravens, and I'm just wondering
one shot next,
is the one shot next? Okay, because I didn't know if that was going to be like the end of the arc that it would follow up on with the Ravens or whatever the next arc is, but next issue, that's fine by me.
And in the trade anyway, it's the next issue, so we're going to do it next as the Birds of the Prey Ravens issue 1, I think it's called. So
pretty simple.
So that's the next one. But yeah, what are we going to rate this one then, Connor?
I'm going to give it a 7.5. It's close to the 8, don't get me wrong. It's really close, but just a couple of little things hold it back.
I think I will give it the 8 because I had such a fun time reading it. I mean, obviously, there are some of the nitpicks we talked about and things to mention, but I'm impressed with this arc, and I think I loved the first one shot that we did way back at the start of the show, and I've generally enjoyed most of what came after it, but I think that was always the best one. I think this arc is the first time it's felt kind of up to that par again, and
I agree. No single issue has felt up to that, but that was a double-sized, maybe longer issue. I don't remember how long that was.
I think it was like 60 pages. So it's probably.
I was going to say about 50. So but either way, I think as a whole, this 3-issue arc is on the standard with that first issue. But it's more than the sum of its parts, I would say. Like the individual issues aren't quite that good, but taken as a whole, it is up to that.
Yeah, it's really good. So I'm looking forward to reading more. I'm looking forward more to issue 4 than I am this one shot, admittedly. But like we'll see what it's like.
I mean, this one shot might be really relevant, given that it does say. At the end of this issue here, it says next time, Return of the Ravens. So I'm like, okay, they were very clearly setting that up in the main book.
Or maybe it'll be very standalone, but they just chose to bring something back from it, and that's why they've put it in the trade here. Is that?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll find out in context, I'm sure.